Hey YouTube, this is Droughton Tech here to give you my first impressions on Ubuntu 20.04, which was released a few days ago on April 23rd of 2020. So right now I'm currently running Ubuntu 20.04 on my host system, and I've got my Mac theme installed. And I also took the opportunity to update my icon set due to updates that happen with GNOME over time, which is like the back end that's responsible for actually applying our custom themes. Like, it's the default desktop environment for Ubuntu, if you know what I mean. But without further ado, let's get right into it. So now, first thing you'll notice, if you are using stock Ubuntu, is its brand new Yaru theme. And by the way, I'm showing you the differences between 18.04 and 20.04. Users coming from 19.10 won't notice much of a difference, but if you're coming from 18.04, especially if you use the stock Ubuntu, you will notice a big difference. But anyway, I just love this new theme. It just looks so much nicer in my opinion, which is great for new users because they can just install and have a great looking operating system. Like, Ubuntu's good at that, and it's gotten even better at that. In fact, now, new with Ubuntu 20.04 is that you have different themes that you can apply through the settings app. Like, there's light, standard, and dark. By default, Ubuntu uses the standard theme. 18.10 to 19.10, you can apply it through the GNOME Tweaks app, but now it's pre-installed right out of the settings app, so no extra configuration required for the users, so +1 on user friendliness. Now, of course, if you want to apply your own custom themes, you will still need to use the Tweaks app. So if you're doing custom theming, you won't be using the Appearance tab. You'll just be using GNOME Tweaks. But anyway, the Appearance tab is for applying default themes. But anyway, another thing you'll notice is that in the settings app, they got rid of all the sub-menus from here. It just replaced it with this unified menu, which that's really nice. Then you can see all your settings right there. Since Ubuntu 18.04, I think even like 17.10, this settings app has actually been pretty similar to iOS. Now, one thing you'll notice if you're applying my exact same Mac theme is that if you put your window controls on the left, just in the settings app, these title bar buttons won't be fully on the left, but this is just in the settings app. Also, another thing you'll notice with the settings app is if you go to applications, you can see a bird's eye view of all the applications you have installed. So you say, I don't want to play Super Tux Card anymore, I can just open in software and remove it. Of course, I still plan to continue playing that game, so I'm not going to remove it. But yeah, you also do get application controls right from there, which that makes it even more user-friendly in my opinion. And also, another thing you'll notice in the settings app is if you go to the About tab, that it's been completely revamped. You got more detail in there, and it's better separated as well. So if you click on device name, you can change it from there, along with other stuff. You can get disk capacity, graphics, along with a bunch of others. Now, if you're applying the same Mac theme that I am, the Ubuntu logo will be replaced by a Budgie logo. Whereas if you're using the stock Ubuntu, it'll just be a Ubuntu logo. And I also do believe that Ubuntu 20.04 added fingerprint support, because initially when I did upgrade, I did see a fingerprint option in the Users tab. So if you have a fingerprint reader, you probably see it, though I don't see it here. So I'm not 100% sure if it's finally adding fingerprint support, so don't quote me on it, but I think it is. But anyway, enough with the settings app. Let's actually move on to what's new in the software app. And one thing that I love that's new in the software app is that if the software comes from the Ubuntu software archive, by the way, this doesn't apply to the Snap Store, if your icon set has a custom icon for it, it'll show it right there. It's like the Games app, you have this Mac-like icon that resembles the Game Center logo from my Mac icon set, but with one asterisk. If it does not have a custom icon, it'll just show like the generic icon for it until you install it, which then its custom icon will be downloaded. Which is actually very useful for the default Yaru theme, because then you get to see Ubuntu's custom icon set with that asterisk, of course. And also, speaking of software, one thing that's actually kind of hit me the wrong way is that by default, they've actually replaced GNOME software with Snap Store, which basically GNOME software was the same as Ubuntu software. Like, they're pretty much the same thing, only this one's packaged as a Snap format, which hits me the wrong way because Snaps have a bad reputation of not applying custom themes, just because of the way Snap works. Like, that's the only reason why I prefer the Ubuntu software archive over Snap. That's why I really don't like Ubuntu Snap dependence. And also, other users have complained about snaps being slower to launch. I also find that too. That's just one thing that's kind of hit me the wrong way. But you can always install GNOME software by just searching for GNOME software and then installing it from here. Now I'm not going to be installing it in this VM because I'm going to be deleting this VM after I'm done with this video anyway. Now let's start to get into the performance improvement side. Like with GNOME 3.36, there's been a lot of performance improvements. Like if you're using a physical machine, you'll notice that it's so smooth compared to Ubuntu 18.04. In the VM, you don't notice because virtual machine graphics suck. But you'll really notice performance improvements if you're using the GNOME desktop environment, unlike me. And actually, speaking of desktop environments, if you're using the Budgie desktop environment, like I am for my Mac theme, I do want to warn that the version of Budgie desktop that you get with Ubuntu 20.04 no longer supports displaying desktop icons. I don't know if that's an issue with the file manager or the desktop environment, but whichever one it is, like the actual desktop on Budgie desktop in Ubuntu 20.04 no longer serves any functional purpose. It's just for looks. You just use your dock and also the top bar for everything. But I'm not really upset about it. I mostly used my desktop purely just for looks back when I was using 18.04, so I'm not really upset about it, but I do see how some users will be though. But that issue is just if you're using Budgie desktop. If you're using the GNOME desktop environment, you will still see desktop icons thanks to a GNOME extension. And of course, if you put files in your desktop folder on Ubuntu 20.04, it will show up on the GNOME desktop environment, but not Budgie desktop. Also, another thing, speaking of the desktop, if you're using the GNOME desktop environment, one change you'll notice is using a GNOME extension to display context menus for icons with just a right click. By the way, another thing you'll notice with Ubuntu 20.04 that I just really love is the new sounds that they added. If you're using Budgie desktop, you only notice it with the sound, but if you're using the GNOME desktop environment, you will notice a lot more sounds. Like, for example, listen to this when I click on trash and click empty trash. Now, of course, if you don't like the new sounds, you can always revert back to the old ones using GNOME tweaks. But I personally do like the new sounds. Like, it's just a nice refresh. That just completes the complete theme revamp. Another thing you'll notice with Ubuntu is that it no longer ships the Amazon app by default. And a lot of community members really love this. Me personally, I don't really care about having the Amazon app pre-installed, but I'm glad that they removed it because there was really no need for it. There were privacy concerns with it. But the reason why I didn't really care about it is I could just remove it. But then again, if people are going to remove it anyway, it's just really not needed. So, thanks Canonical. Good job. And also, another thing I notice with it is that the GNOME development team has fixed up the videos and maps apps. So that way now maps is now accurate when showing your location. It's still inaccurate with postal codes, though, since it's based on OpenStreetMap, which you can see by opening maps. I'm not going to because I don't want to show you my location. I don't know if that's an issue with OpenStreetMap or GNOME Maps itself, so I don't know who to follow or report against. And they've also fixed up the Videos app, so now when you play back videos through it, it won't display these weird colors when trying to play certain video formats. So that's what made me want to install GNOME Maps and switch back to GNOME Videos, just purely for UX consistency. Oh, and also, one thing I forgot to mention is that if you're just using the stock Ubuntu, you'll notice a whole new lock screen. But now let's get into what app developers have done with new versions of their apps for Ubuntu 20.04. Starting with Flowblade. I know that doesn't get a lot of talk in the Linux community, but I just feel like I have to go over it because I rely on this to edit all my YouTube videos. One thing I noticed is this new theme. Like, by default, it has this blue Flowblade theme, which I'll show you. Like, that's what the new Flowblade theme looks like by default. I know a lot of people will love this. And of course, you can go back to like the light theme, but I like the dark theme. That's the one I've been using. And also, one thing you'll notice is it's more deep purple for video files and a deeper green for picture files. And they actually have different workflows called the standard and film style. The film style one is from versions earlier than 2.0, so since I was sticking with 1.12, I'm very familiar with this, so I'm going to be sticking with the film style, but a lot of you coming from third-party video editors such as Premiere Pro or Final Cut Pro will probably prefer the standard workflow, but that all comes down to preference. Also, another thing, with Ubuntu 20.04, if you're using the version of GIMP from the Ubuntu software archive, you will get upgraded to GIMP 2.10.18, which has like a slightly new user interface. Like you get shortcuts to a lot of the tools. Of course, you could still use the menu bar like you're used to. But in my opinion, I did like the old workflow because I find it just gives me less space to work on my image editing. But it won't be too bad like once I get fully used to it. Another thing, if you're upgrading from 18.04 to 20.04, you'll get upgraded from LibreOffice 6.0.7.3 to 6.4.2.2, which you'll notice a lot of UI improvements. For example, say I start a document and then close it, it'll just use the default alert window for alerts. I'm going to show you what that looks like on stock Ubuntu. Yeah, like that. Now, of course, I'm not going to go over the changes of every single app, otherwise this will go on forever. Now that I've gotten to all the good, let's look at the bad. As I said, the stock Ubuntu ships a Snap Store by default, which rubs me the wrong way, but I'm not too upset about it, knowing that I can just revert back to GNOME software very easily. And I already do have both Snap Store and GNOME software installed, just to keep my Snap Stores and Ubuntu software archives separate. Just that way I don't accidentally confuse the two, if you know what I mean. And one thing that's not Ubuntu's fault, but a quirk with Flowblade, is that you'll notice that if you're using a 15.6-inch laptop screen, the window doesn't fit the screen. Like, it's too big for the screen. But you can go to full screen by pressing FN F11, or by going to View Full Screen. So that's just one little thing. I actually did report this as a bug, so hopefully I get a response on that soon. Also, with GNOME tweaks, if you position your buttons on the left, like I do, you'll notice this bug that the top bar becomes transparent. It does create this weird glitch effect. I actually think it's kind of cool, but is kind of annoying to deal with. But easiest solution, just double click on it, or you can drag it up, and then it goes away. Sometimes it reproduces and other times it doesn't. Yeah, which this has been reported as a bug on Launchpad, so hopefully that gets looked at soon. It is kind of annoying. But anyway, those are my first impressions on Ubuntu 20.04. If I had to leave a review, so far, I love it. Despite those few quirks that I think they could fix, which I only noticed 3 so far, and 2 of which are actually just bugs, but one of which was a decision that I don't really agree with. Despite all that, I just love this new release and plan to continue using it, especially so since I get 2 years of extra support with it, up until like April of 2025 of security and maintenance updates guaranteed. And that goes for every Ubuntu 20.04 user. As for 18.04, it's only until April 2023. But anyway, after saying all that, I want to share with you how my upgrade to Ubuntu 20.04 went. Oh, it was a disaster. Basically, what happened is like, when I was about a minute into the upgrade process, a pop-up showed up. It's asking me if I wanted to start the upgrade. Basically, went into details. Basically, like what programs would be removed, what programs would be updated, so on and so forth. Basically, when I got out of it, the window basically was too big to fit on my screen, and it basically hid the upgrade and cancel options. So I was basically left with no choice but to force quit the upgrade process. But it already, prepared for the upgrade. So I tried to get it restarted, prompted me to install a whole bunch of updates, but even then it did not like that. Just said not all the upgrades could be completed, and I just had to do a clean install anyway. This is why, before I did my upgrade, I made sure to download the Ubuntu 20.04 ISO and flash it to my Ubuntu install drive, just in case the system managed to screw up the upgrade process, which it did. And for a silly reason, because of the bug in the upgraded utility that did not allow the window to shrink back to original size, once you close the details tab. Lesson learned for next time I do an upgrade. Don't look at the details tab. You may trigger a bug that will force you to break your installation. So yeah, that did suck because downtime for my computer did last much longer than I expected because I needed to reconfigure everything. But hey, at least since I flashed a Ubuntu 20.04 LTS ISO to flash drive, I didn't have to reinstall Ubuntu 18.04 and then go through the upgrade process again. Yeah, so it does kind of suck because I did miss out on an opportunity which I'll probably not get for another 2 years, which is to do a Ubuntu release upgrade on my host system. But anyway, speaking of upgrading to Ubuntu 20.04, I want to warn that upgrades from 18.04 to 20.04 won't be officially enabled until late July 2020. To get around this, you're going to have to run update manager -c-d in terminal, which I'll have that in the description. and then it'll open up to software updater, which then will show you the upgrade option. It will complain that it's a development release, but you could just upgrade anyway at your own risk. I don't know if it's going to give you the development release, but it should just upgrade you directly to the official release. And even if it doesn't, you probably can just easily update to the official release. But anyway, thanks for watching. If you liked this video, found it interesting, hit the like button, share this video with your friends, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment.